I'm not especially religious. I didn't have much education, and I'm no longer young. But I have travelled a lot, seen a lot. And you listen and learn. I'm a journeyman, you see, a man of all trades. I work anywhere. My tools are my only luggage wherever I go. I met Joseph in Bethlehem, along with his young wife and baby. It was the first time I'd been there, and I've worked all over. Phoenicia, Syria, Egypt. Bethlehem isn't a big place. An inn, a synagogue, a market in the square. Anyway, the innkeeper had asked me if I would help make some repairs around the place, and it was there I met Joseph. He was a carpenter, a better one than me, but we had that in common. A nice, quiet man, Joseph. Trustworthy. He and his wife Mary had just come back from taking the baby up to the temple in Jerusalem for his blessing. It took me a few days before I felt safe enough to tell him I was a Samaritan. "Oh," said Joseph, "I've never been to Samaria. Come and eat with us tonight and tell us about your country." It was a couple of nights later, after dark. I'd been downstairs in the inn for a drink before returning to my room. As I was about to retire, there was a soft knock on my door. It was Joseph. "Can you help us?" he said. "We have to leave right away, tonight." I went with him back to their room. Mary was already packing, the baby fast asleep in the corner of the room. On the table in the middle of the room were 3 caskets, beautifully decorated. "Gold, frankincense and myrrh," said Joseph. "Gifts for the baby, but they can bring death to us all. We've been told by God that we must leave Bethlehem immediately and go to Egypt tonight. But we know nothing of long journeys or how to get there. Please help us." As I say, Joseph was a good man, someone you could trust. So I went back to my room and packed my tools. We were out of the place in an hour. I'd borrowed a donkey for Mary to ride on with the baby, and outside the town we joined a trade caravan of merchants, but as far as possible kept ourselves to ourselves. If people got too inquisitive, I used rough talk and said loudly that I was a Samaritan, and that usually got rid of them. Sins of the fathers can come in handy sometimes. You might ask why I did go with them. Well, there was nothing heroic about it. I've always moved around a lot, and Joseph and I were both joiners and carpenters, and I thought we might do well together, working as we travelled. And with Joseph being an Orthodox Jew, he found it a lot easier to be accepted and get work than I did. Being a Samaritan is a bit like being a leper. It took us a long time to complete the journey. We stayed nowhere very long. My gentle friend was a wanted man. Mad King Herod was after him. Well, not so much him as the baby. I never got to know all the ins and outs of it, but Joseph had got an early warning that Herod was going to kill all the baby boys in Bethlehem. Now, Neither Joseph nor Mary struck me as being the hysterical type, but I confess I didn't really believe them. But not long after we left, it happened. We heard about it later. Mary wept for days. We didn't go far into Egypt, just far enough to be out of Herod's reach. We settled down in a little house near the delta of the great river. There was enough work around for us to make a living. I'm not one for asking questions, and as I say, Joseph was the quiet type. But one evening I asked him how he had got to know about Herod's order to have all the baby boys killed. And he said he'd had a dream in which an angel had told him to leave immediately. He also told me that his son had been given to Mary by God. He was quite serious, but I made a sort of joke and said, "Well then, when the angel tells you to go back home, let me know." I forget how long we lived there, but one morning Joseph was sitting with his son on his knee, and Joseph smiled at me and said, "We can go home now." "Another angel?" I said. "No, the same one," he replied. "Herod is dead, and it's safe to go." So we did. But we didn't go back to Bethlehem, but further away from potential trouble, to Nazareth in Galilee, where Joseph came from. And it was there I left them. I worked in Syria and Cyprus after that and lost touch.